In this video, we want to work on the delete functionality. So when you click this delete, let's add a new action method for HTTP post. So right here, we can add HTTP post and it will be public iActionResult. Let me call this as delete. Inside the details view, we already have the header ID in hidden field and we have binded the property so that we will access in here. We can load an inquiry header and we'll call this inquiry header is equal to underscore inquiry header dot first dot default. We'll say u goes to u dot id is equal to inquiry view model. We have the header ID. So based on that, we will load the inquiry header. And then let's also populate all of the details, which will be an IEnumerable. So in here, we will have the inquiry detail. Let's call this as inquiry details underscore inquiry details dot get all, and we'll get them based on the inquiry header ID. So here we have the inquiry header as well as inquiry details that we have to remove. In order to remove the inquiry details, if you go to details and you type remove, what you can pass is a single entity. So one way to remove is you iterate in a for each loop and you remove all of these entities individually. Or we can do something better. If we go back to our repository, inside the data access, we have repository.cs and the interface. Here we can add one more generic method in which we can delete a range of repositories. So we can call the method as remove range, and rather than working on a single entity, that will work on an IEnumerable of entity. If we go to our repository, we need to implement that interface and we'll scroll down. Right here on the DB set, we have the remove range method. In here, it expects an array of T. So we can pass our entity here and that will remove all entity in a single flow. So this way in a repository in future, if you think you have to add new functionalities, you can always add them. Then rather than remove here for details, we will be removing range and we can pass inquiry details that will remove all of the details. Once we remove the details, we can also remove the header and we'll pass inquiry header. Right now, nothing has been deleted from database. In order to delete, we need to call the save method. If you use the header save method or details, it doesn't matter because it does not depend on DB set. So anyone will do the same functionality. Once you save the changes, we will return and we will redirect to the action. We want to go back to the index page. So rather than static, we can use name of and we'll define index. Perfect. This looks great. But we have one more issue here. How do we tell the details to go to this particular delete action method, because we are in one form and in there we have two buttons with type of submit. By default, you can change the name, but that will be applied to both of these. So if you want one button to go to a different post action method or even get action method, that could be done as well. So in input where we have delete, we can say the form action. So you see, form action, we need to define what will be the action name. And here we have to define inquiry for the controller. In there we have the delete action. And we also need to define the form method. So form method will be post because inside the inquiry controller, the delete, we have HTTP post for delete. So with that, what will happen is the delete will go to the delete action with post And this submit will go to the details, and that's how we want it. This can be quite tricky, but once you get it, it has great use case when you have buttons in an application that goes to different action method for posting data. So let's run our application and let's take a look at the output. Let me also open up SQL Server Management Studio. We'll open up our database for Rocky and we'll open up the inquiry header and details. Great, let's switch back and let me log in as an admin user. And we'll go to our inquiry tab. Let's delete this order, which is the details, ID of 2. It has 2 products. If we switch back here, you can see inquiry header 2 has 2 products 3 and 4. If we come back here and hit the delete button, great, you can see now we only have 2 inquiry list. If we go back to the database and if we execute it, you can see inquiry header ID 2 has disappeared. If you go to the header here, this line won't be exist once we refresh. And you can see everything is working as expected. So with this, now admin can manage the inquiry. But we are missing one very important feature, which is security. The inquiry controller should only be accessible by admin user. So we'll stop here and we'll add an authorize keyword and we'll say wc.admin role. Only then you can access the inquiry controller. So with this, we complete the management of inquiry. But before I jump to the next section, I want to show you one more important feature. Let's take a look at that in the next video.